We catch up with rock star Francois van Gogh as he tells us all about his new tell-all conversation series called 40 Jaar van Gogh, sharing stories about himself that has never been told publicly. Welcome back to the show.
Hey, it's so nice to be here.
I'm loving the fact that you're challenging my Afrikaans skills here, but you know what? I've been practicing, I've been stretching, so I'm ready.
Yeah, rather you speaking Afrikaans than me Zulu, I think.
I love it. But let's go back to the last time you were in the loft, just last year. I mean, you were speaking about your gigging, your up and down, touring and travels, basically the road being your second home, and then COVID-19 hit.
Yeah, it's actually been crazy. I think the last time I was here, we were kind of getting ready for 2020, and it was this amazing planned out year. Everything was set to have a massive year, and then COVID hit in March, and obviously everything changed. So we had to adapt, I think, in the music industry especially. And, we did online shows. And I think the cool thing is our fans really supported us through this time. And I think it kind of worked out. I think a year later, I don't think in March last year, I would have felt comfortable thinking about March 2021. But I think we're still alive and we're still kicking, we're still making music, it's all good.
It was impossible to project what a year would look like last year this time. So I'm so glad, though, that you've been able to resurface and become stronger and still create the music. But if we were to also just touch on the personal side, last time you were here, you were saying that you were struggling, finding that balance between work and home. Of course, at the time, you still had your beautiful first daughter, Alex, but now we've welcomed baby number 2, your beautiful son, Max. So just tell us all about how fathering is now the second time around, being able to stay home.
Yeah, I think that was quite a different process. I was at home for my wife's whole pregnancy, which last time I kind of missed completely, because I was touring, I was on the road, being home maybe 2 or 3 days a week and then on the road the rest. So it was a very cool experience to experience that whole thing. And obviously spending like the first couple of months with my baby boy is really amazing. I think if shows get back to normal, we'll have to find a balance again, but it's been really great spending time with the family. It's just like you always have this thing in the back of your mind, life will have to get back to normal sometime.
Sure.
But it's been great spending time with the family. I think that's definitely the upside of this whole COVID vibe.
But now when it comes to just the candid nature that you're taking on, full on with these video podcasts and the podcast, essentially tell all stories that have never been heard before. So tell us all about it. How did the story come to be that you decided, let me put all my stories on blast?
Actually, a couple of years ago, someone from a publishing house contacted me and said they are interested in putting a book out for me, an autobiography, or a biography, whichever one I wanted to do, if I want to get another writer involved to work with me. And I said, I think I'm like lank young. I don't really know if I must put it out now. Maybe when I'm 50, the life is a little bit rounded at that age.
Yeah.
And, but it started kind of the idea. So we started talking about the book, and I played in a band as well, Fok of Politiekar, and there was this friend of ours, Annie Kloppers, that wrote a bioc for Fok of Politiekar about 10 years ago. So someone that has written a book about old stories and our days on the road. I started talking to Annie about the book, and then also at the same time, someone contacted me to make a movie about my life. And I was also like, that is so weird. I don't know, if there's that much to tell. But all of these kind of things sparked the idea of me putting kind of my stories out in some way. And then obviously the lockdown happened. And the initial idea was just me and Annie, the writer of the Fok of Politiekar book, to kind of just have online conversations, do it live and put it out so people can listen to the stupid stories I have. And it kind of just progressed to, now it's kind of like almost like a docu / podcast, video cast.
Yeah.
series.
You know, I see a lot of popularity being built when it comes to these video journals. I can almost imagine them, and I call them, you know, video journals, just being able to sit down and share your story. But how does then that help you personally as an artist, as a father, as a man, relive all the experiences? You know, I can almost imagine the nostalgia that comes with just reimagining and going through all those stories again.
Yeah, but before we actually started this, I wrote down a lot of the stories, and it's weird how those things come back and just it takes you back. You know, if you actually sit down and try and remember what happened 10 years ago, what happened that night specifically at that festival. Yeah, it's crazy to relive those stories. And you know, we've had some crazy times on the road, and there's actually a lot of weird stories to tell.
And I'm sure that also shows you the growth that you've experienced as well as a person.
Yeah. For me, you know, I'm 40 now, 40 jaar van coke.
Yeah, that's the word I couldn't say.
40. So I started playing music when I was 23 full time. Started touring at 23, and I'm completely a different person. I mean, everything has changed. I mean, I still kind of think more or less the same, but I mean, in my life, everything has changed. You know, when I was 23, I had nothing. I had like a bed in a yellow rented room with a stack of porn mags, and like that's all I owned. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it.
Now things have changed. You know, I've got a house that I like to live in. I'm married, very happily married with 2 kids. You know, that just changes your perspective completely. So, yeah, things change over time.
I love that. Do you want to share some of these stories with us? I know that this is the first time on a public television platform that you've gotten the opportunity to share some of these stories. But if you could think of maybe your top 2 or top 1 story that can make us all clutch our pearls and say, please do, so we can start listening.
I'll tell you one. You know, a lot of these stories are filled with drunken debauchery and
life of a rock star. Life of a rock star.
I'll tell you one that's kind of funny. At Opikopi, I think it was 2008, at a massive party. It was an Easter Opikopi, so it happens on the Easter weekend. And I think I played on the Friday night, and the Saturday was kind of just a party day. So I kind of just hung out. And what's beautiful about these festivals is you see all of your friends in different bands that you don't see every day from across the country. Had a massive party, lost my shoes, and this friend of mine, I won't say his name on national TV, but his name is in the podcast. We started slapping one another in a drunken game, I guess, yeah. Started slapping one another, and eventually we started kissing one another. And then in that moment, a bunch of journalists came past from a newspaper, a Sunday newspaper, and they took a photo, and they asked me, so Francois, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're kissing this guy. And I was like, yeah, man, be a man, kiss a man. And then
that's going to be our new slogan.
I didn't think about it much, but the weekend after that was the Sama Awards. Also had a massive party at the Sama Awards. Drove back, stopped at a garage, and walked into the garage. The first thing I saw was that newspaper on the front page. It's me and this guy kissing, and it went like Sisa van Coke Sunaman.
Wow.
And on that same morning, my wife, who was my girlfriend at the time, her sister went into a shop too, saw the newspaper, and she phoned my wife and called her, and she was like, Lauren, you won't believe me, Francois on the cover of the newspaper kissing. And my wife said like her stomach just sank. And she was like, kissing a man. And she was like, okay, that's fine, no problem. So there was actually these newspaper boards that said Coke Sunaman.
Wow.
And that is the story behind it.
I love it. I mean, South Africa, clearly, all is fair in love and war.
Exactly.
From slapping to kissing. But if that is just a taste of what we can experience and what you share in your podcast, I'm sure so many people are going to be tuned in. But from the funny stories to funny games, we're going to be playing a fun game with you a little bit later on in the show. And it's a game about rock stars, keeping to the theme. So are you ready for that?
I think so. I love rock quizzes.
Okay. Yeah, it's all about rock quizzes. And of course, we've got that stellar performance coming up from Francois and his incredible band. So we've got so much more to look forward to.